think I started with a snapshot of a board I just put up. I'm finally getting to this ceiling in here. I had the center done, but I just put this end piece in. These are just helping me wedge a glued piece in. And I think you can see what's going on here. Let's widen this out. That gray piece is going to get painted at some point. But that looks pretty good. And then this is going to get a fabric over all the sheet metal. I'm just going to spray glue that on there. And the piece you saw me gluing up on the table in there is going to be this end piece, and hopefully I'll get that in today. But right now, we're going to get into story time. I think you guys will like it. All right. Woo! So, and yeah, I know, it's, I'm packing it on. My visceral fat, my internal, it's, I've been eating sugar lately, which I shouldn't do, but this lady that lives here makes me cookies all the time, and I have no self-control. So last night I was watching the Bagdad Cafe. I figured I should do my homework because at the end of this month, April 26th, there's going to be this event. So Sarah, Wonder Hussy, she was texting me last week, and she asked me, she said, hey, I'm doing this event, would you like to participate? Because it's a meet and greet, and she likes to try to get as many of her YouTube friends together to participate in that, and I've done a few videos on it already. And I had known that the Baghdad Cafe was a film for a long time, but I had never seen it. And yesterday, I was talking with the guy. It's Sarah's contact, so when Sarah and I were communicating about this, she was like the middle person for a minute. You know, like I was asking her some questions, and she was going back to somebody she kept referring to as her contact. Guy's name's Dave. I haven't met him. She said, I think she said she's never met him. She only communicates with him through email. So I told her, well, I asked her, I said, why don't you just give me his email address? This way I'll talk to him directly, and I don't have to bother you, because I know she's busy. So she did. She gave me his email, and I emailed him, and he got right back to me yesterday morning, and super nice guy. He says there's like 6 acres there. We could all park there. We could stay there. That's cool. And I was calling him to also check in to say, hey, I had this idea. It might not be a bad idea to have some porta potties there. And he was already on top of it. And so it was a nice little note there. And I responded with some more questions. I haven't heard yet back from him, but that's fine. At any rate, I was sitting here last night in my pad, and I thought I should watch this movie just to see what it's all about. Because in his email to me, he had said that it's a well-known place, and that people from Europe in particular come out there to visit the place. It's a landmark joint, and it's a tourist destination. At the same time, it doesn't seem like it's doing great. So Sarah did a thing for them last year where they were able to, raise enough money to put a new roof on the joint. You guys have probably seen those videos if you're fans of Wonder Hussy Adventures. So that's what this is for as well. So we want people to show up and spend money at the restaurant. Anyhow, I watched the movie last night, and I got to tell you, like the first 20 minutes or so into it, I was about ready to turn it off because I wasn't getting it. It was just like, ugh, this is, okay, it's some kooky art film. The pace is really strange. I'm not sure about the characters. That actress, CCH, the black actress, she's great. I've seen her in stuff for years. She was the only person I recognized other than Jack Palance, who I used to see here in Hollywood all the time back in the 90s. A little funny story about that, but I don't have to get into that right now. And just to like give you the gist of it, there's this German couple. They're arguing in German, and he kicks her out of the car, basically. She starts walking. She hides from him. He can't find her. She stumbles upon the Baghdad Cafe, gets a room, and starts changing their lives because the people there's a lot of drama, a lot of craziness, and the lady, the black actress, she runs the place, and her name's Brenda in the movie. And so Brenda's running the joint, and she creates things in her mind and gets pissed off at people about it. Very typical, a lot of the women that I have in my life. So, but about 20 minutes in, Yasmin is the German lady. She's a chunky lady, but beautiful. I find her attractive. Blue eyes, great smile. What a great actress. What she does with her face is amazing. And Jack Palance lives in a trailer on the property, and it's cool. There's a whole host of characters that kind of come and go, and it's fun to watch. But about 22 minutes into it, they meet, and you see what Yasmin is thinking, because she apparently hasn't probably seen a lot of black people, but she has this flash of Brenda and a bunch of other black people dressed as Africans, and this lady's in a pot, like a cauldron, being cooked alive. So as soon as I saw that, I just laughed out loud. I was like, okay, all right, you got me hooked now. This is funny. Let's see where this goes. So I watched it. It was fun, and I'm not going to give you too many more spoilers. You guys should watch the film. I think it's 1985. It's basically a chick flick. But I'll tell you, Jack Palance, he reminds me of me. I've always kind of looked up to that guy, because as an old guy, he was doing one-arm push-ups on the stage on the Johnny Carson show, and I'm staying pretty fit myself. And his character in there, he's living in a trailer, an Airstream on the property, and he's a former set painter in Hollywood. And I used to design and build sets, theater sets and movie sets. So there's this kind of similarity there. I like when I can identify with somebody in a film, you know, it makes it more fun to follow. And there's a really funny part, because he's got a crush on her and he wants to paint her. And every time he paints her, like he paints her multiple times, and they flash to what she looks like as he's painting her. And every time he paints her, she's wearing less and less clothes. It's just so funny. And you're sitting there, you're going, oh, I see where this is going. And then at one point, she's sitting there with the cleavage, and she's holding like a melon with the center carved out. Like, I mean, it's so overly suggestive that it just made me laugh out loud. It was so hysterical, very funny. And as it got to the end, I started going on eBay. I started looking for stuff, because none of it exists. I can't believe that. Now, maybe you can buy a T-shirt there, and if they're not selling them there, I'm going to contact Dave when I do this. Because I said to him, he says, hey, we like to have events out there. I'm glad you're bringing the van event there. I told him, I said, it's pretty close to LA for me, 2.5 hours, and I could have events there whenever it strikes my fancy, I suppose, if they're okay with it. So it seems cool. And I've looked at pictures from there. I've seen Sarah's videos, and I've done Google Maps, and I don't think that they've recreated any of the props from the film. And I'm going to make the suggestion to him, if they don't exist, maybe I missed it, but having the little water tower that they had there, and having T-shirts that have Bagdad Oil and Gas Cafe and things like that, you know, you could be selling those on eBay and making some money. And anyway, I was into that. I started doing this research on eBay and Amazon and things like that, and looking for, because what I was really looking for was a copy of the paintings, because the paintings that Jack Palance's character painted of Yasmin would be classic, man. They might exist. If you guys know where they exist, they're just hysterical. They're well done. They're kind of like folk art, and those things should be posters you should be able to buy. And they should be hanging up in this place if they're not already. And so I'm looking forward to being there, and hopefully you guys will be there. So anyhow, I'm doing this, and my phone rings. It's 8 o'clock, about 8 o'clock at night my time. It's my buddy Fenton Lawless, one of the coolest names of anybody I know. He's only beat out by a woman I met in 2000 while I was in Paris for the Millennium. Her name was Tawny Champagne. Real friggin' name, man. So for a girl, coolest name ever. For a dude, Fenton Lawless, coolest name ever. And Fenton's an actor, and I've known Fenton for 30 years. And he's been in a lot of stuff. He's a character actor. So he gets little parts in a lot of films, a lot of big films. When I met him in the 90s, mid-90s, it's probably around 95 or so. That would be 30 years. He was just in Mississippi Burning, I Shot Andy Warhol, and Air Force One. In Air Force One with Harrison Ford, He's the steward on the plane. He talks to him. He talks to him about the football scores or something. And in Mississippi Burning, he plays a reporter in the front in the row there, like with the And then and he's next to this other guy, Spencer Garrett, who's became a big time actor now, character actor. He gets small roles. He might be doing bigger stuff. I don't know. But Spencer used to live in the building next to me, and I'm not a big fan of Spencer personally. I got some personal issues with him from back in the day, but whatever. He opens the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's the guy that starts on him. And anyhow, there's that guy. And then he did I Shot Andy Warhol. In the movie I Shot Andy Warhol, he plays this weird dude. There's this girl that shot Andy Warhol. It's based on a true story. And he plays some freak that he runs into in the street. And he's really creepy. He wants her to like walk on him with stiletto heels. And I bring all this up because I was farting around on YouTube. And you know what? I actually have to stop this here because I forgot to look it up. Let me look this up real fast so I can tell you what it is. And then I'll provide a link for it in the description below after I publish this film. So don't go anywhere. Hang on. Just give me a sec. All right, I got it. So there's this comedian. His name's Ryan Long. And he was doing like man on the street videos in New York City. He's in the park there. And I think it's Washington Square. And maybe it's Union Square. At any rate, Ryan Long. And he's asking people on the streets if Trump's tariffs will make Chinese dildos more expensive. It's a funny, ridiculous premise, right? Now, this was a video that just popped up randomly on my YouTube page. Like, YouTube does as suggestions, and I thought the premise was funny, so I decided to watch it. I guess I've been watching tariff information lately, schooling myself on it. Instead of repeating what some news station tells me, I've been listening to, like, smart people and economists and all sorts of different people from different perspectives, so I have a better understanding of what's going on. In long-form interview, not just a 5-minute, short conversation with a bunch of other people interjecting their BS. At any rate, I'm watching the video, and all of a sudden, there's Fenton. He's talking. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, this is crazy. Why would I stumble upon this? It didn't have Fenton's name in it or anything else, but there's Fenton. Fenton walks around Manhattan all the time. And Fenton lives in Manhattan. He's lived there pretty much, I think, his whole adult life. Fenton has been in TV and film and music. I don't even know how old Fenton is. How old are you, Fenton? Fenton could be 80 years old or more for all I know. He's an old guy, but he's very spry. He's still with it. He's a great dude. Just a fun guy, Irish guy. But there's these old pictures of him in black and white, probably back in the, I don't know how old he is. I don't want to overage him. Late 50s, maybe? Definitely early 60s. Young guy in a suit. I don't know if he was working as a page at NBC or something, but he's been around in the business for a long time. And he loves New York, and he's the man. And I like to see him when I'm back home in town. At any rate, this guy's interviewing Fenton. And Fenton is screwing with him, right? But Fenton is screwing with him so well that he even got me. And as the guy's talking to him, the guy starts, because in Fenton's mind, and I kind of got this when I was watching it, but he reinforced it when we started talking on the phone last night. He's listening to this guy's questions. They're so ridiculous. He decides in his mind, right there, to screw with the dude. But he does it so straight that me knowing him, I thought he was serious. And it totally screwed me up because he's claiming that he's celibate. At some point, it gets to that thing. I believe in celibacy, and I'm just like, what? And I'm looking for like a little twinkle in his eye or like a little like looking at the camera. Like I would do that. I would make this guy think one thing, but when he wasn't looking at me, I'd look right into the camera and kind of give you a wink or something just to let you know I'm having fun with you and messing with him. Fenton doesn't do any of that, man. He sold me on this 100%. And I took the video. I haven't even shared it on my Facebook page yet because he comes off so bizarre and creepy. I was afraid to share it with my friends because they would think this guy's friggin' creepy. Like, what the hell's going on? So I put it on his page with just the word dude, like, dude, dude, dude. Like, and that one word screwed up Fenton so much, he had to call me last night asking me what I was thinking about that. It was so, we had this great, we talked for an hour and a half last night on the phone. And it was so much fun. He's such a good dude and a real New Yorker, you know. And Fenton's a conservative, you know, Republican, and whatever you think about that doesn't matter to me. But he's a great guy, and so we have a lot of things in common. And we talked and laughed, and it was good. And we started telling all these stories that we shared together. Fenton saw me one time in a situation where, whether he realizes it or not, he saved the guy's life, because I was so angry with this guy. I've mentioned it before in passing here. It was one of the few times I got so angry I almost passed out. I blacked out. I couldn't even see. I saw like the bug fights, you know, like the static you get on a TV screen back in the old days. Like I had to catch my breath because I was trying not to like totally lose it in front of him, because he was, you know, Fenton is not that kind of guy. And I guess I didn't want to reveal that side of myself to him, but he was there. He witnessed that whole thing. So we talked about that a little bit. That was funny. And, but he lived right next to me. He lived in the apartment right next to me. When those films came out in the 90s, he was doing all kinds of auditions. He was auditioning every single day. And there was a cigar joint called the Cigar Joint over here on Beverly, just past La Brea. And so we would go there every Tuesday night. But he spent most of his days there. And he smokes Padrones. And we'd smoke cigars on the back porch and talk about life. And Fenton was always very complimentary of me, towards me. And he was telling me last night, he's like, I always told you you could do this. Because apparently he watches the channel. And coming from a guy that's been in the business that long, that means a lot. But it was a funny conversation because I had to share with him, and he gets it. And my buddy Thad, he just commented on something earlier. My buddy Thaddeus, he and I worked together out here at that time, early to mid 90s. We were doing theater sets and things like that together. I was acting in some of it, and he was always doing he went to school for film. Thad works for a production company down in Georgia now. And Thad and I talk about it from time to time, because I wouldn't mind, you know, I had an agent for a little while, a commercial agent, but the problem with me, and Thad points it out to me, is people are just afraid of me, those types of people in that world. Because I have an edge to me, and it scares those people. You know, when you see actors that are tough guys in movies, a lot of them, especially old, like Lee Marvin and those guys, Charles Bronson, they are tough guys. But, you know, they were around a lot of tough guys at that time, back then when they were making films. A lot of guys that had been service members and all that. That's not what it is today. Today it's people pretending to be tough guys. They're not. So when you're around those people and you're just, I'm the guy I am, it intimidates those people, and they are uncomfortable around me. And I'm not trying to, you know, lift myself up here. I'm just being honest with you, and this is what I've been told by people. And I could tell you stories of me telling them stories when they got a camera on me, when they've been interviewing me, and I know, you know, after the fact, I'm scaring the hell out of them. So it's kind of a bummer for me. At any rate, me doing this, what I'm doing now on the channel, and doing these conversations, talking to you guys, and sometimes cracking you up, this is just me being 100% me, and it's working. Maybe something will come of it. But it's just fun to talk to him about this. And he was on a show, Stranger Things, Season 2, Episode 3, Merle. He plays this guy, Merle. I never saw the show. I guess it's kind of more of a kid's show, so it's not really my thing. But he's got reels out there. He's been in a lot of stuff, Fenton. I have another friend like that, Chris Darga, he's a character actor. He tends to do roles that are a little bit bigger, where he'll actually have, there's lines and there's dialogue, right? So if you're in a film and you're a character guy and they give you a line, you got a line. It's not that big of a deal. I've done that myself before. A couple lines throughout the film, fine. Dialogue, you're interacting with another character and you're having dialogue. And that's when it's a little bit easier for you in a way to create some depth in a character, because there's dialogue. You got something to come at. So if you're just doing lines, it's hard for me when I watch a film, when I see somebody just throw a line out every once in a while, because I'm not seeing a lot of depth sometimes. But that's fine. That's just me nitpicking. It doesn't matter how small your role is. Like, you should create like a back story for your person, for your character that you're playing, so you got a little bit more something behind your eyes. Anyhow, that's just what I think about it. Fenton's got great stories, and he's worked with all the greats, man. I mean, he's got, and the thing about Fenton is, and it was funny because I didn't remember this. He feels a little bad because I told him I was going to do this video today. He feels a little bad because he should not have left Hollywood at that time because he was hot. He was a hot commodity, and he was getting work. But he had a situation going on in the city where he had some woman squatting in his apartment, and he had to go back to New York to kick this lady out. He never told me that at the time. Had he told me, I told him this last night, dude, I would have gotten rid of her. I would have went right to that apartment. I would have thrown all her stuff in garbage bags, taken it in the hallway, kicked her out, and changed the locks right in front of her. I would have done all that right in front. I would have been over, period. And apparently it took him months to get rid of this broad. At any rate, he had to deal with that. But he had this really good gig in New York, too, and he was the bartender. And we talked about this last night. He was a bartender at I think it was the Upper West Side, a place called Primola. I don't know if it's still there. It was an Italian restaurant joint. And a lot of Bernie Madoff used to eat there all the time. Matter of fact, I think Fenton introduced me to him. This is a good story. You guys will get a kick out of this. Woody Allen ate there several nights a week, you know. So I'm in Manhattan, and this is late 90s, and but it's probably around 98, I would guess. And I ran into Fenton's wife, Denise, and she's a casting director. I ran into her totally randomly on the streets of Manhattan. I can't tell you how often that's happened. I'm walking in some big city, and I run into somebody I know, and it's not even a place where I live. It's freaking bizarre the way the world works. And I run into Denise, and she says, oh, Fenton's working at the restaurant. And she tells me where it's at, so I walk over there. Now, I'm wearing Levi's with a tall cuff, engineer boots, a white T-shirt, and a navy pea coat. This is not the dress code for this joint, right? So I open the door to go in, and this guy comes out. He's a big Italian guy wearing a suit. And he's, can I help you? And his attitude with me was like, right away, I knew I don't belong here. I don't belong in his joint. So I looked at him and I went, well, I think my friend Fenton works here. And he goes, Fenton? He says, you're friends with Fenton? I said, yeah. He goes, come on in. So he brings me in, and it's this little teeny tiny bar, but there's this curtain. And the curtain separates the dining room. So if you walk into the front of this joint, you can't see who's in there. It's designed this way. They don't want you to know who's in there, right? So people will sit at the bar, and they'll wait for their party to show up or a table to open up or whatever, and then they go in there. So I go in, and Fenton's like, holy shit, Mike, what's going on? And he takes care of me. I was a bartender for years. You guys know how it is. Your friend comes in, guy's not paying for it. I didn't pay for anything. And as I sat there hanging out with him, I was in there for several hours getting hammered. Every person who came in and sat at the bar, Fenton introduced me to that person. And he would introduce me in a way, just like when I was in Bisbee for New Year's this past year, and my buddy Kevin, he was introducing me the same way Fenton was. This guy's a master carpenter, man, master craftsman. You wouldn't believe the furniture he can make. Really talking me up. And people who I don't know, perfect strangers, they start asking me, and I'm a fun guy. I'm great with strangers and all that, and making them laugh, cracking them up, being honest, boom, 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 answering, not being too full of my, all the right stuff. Just being a normal Jersey guy. So having a good time, cracking these people up. And every time one of them would leave, he'd be like, dude, that guy's a multimillionaire. That guy owns 5 car garages. This guy is a banker. He owns 2 banks. This guy does this. This guy does that. And he was really trying to talk me into like living there in Manhattan. I got to tell you, man, I worked on a brownstone in Manhattan around that time, actually. It could have been that year. I think it was that summer. This was the fall because it was colder. That's why I had the pea coat on. But that summer, I was probably there for a couple months. I used to go home a lot for months at a time. And I met some guy on the beach. I don't remember this guy's name. He looked a lot like Mel Gibson. And he had a scar going down his face. And he was in a lot of pain. He had back trouble and whatnot. So he was addicted to Percocets. And he had his hot girlfriend who looked great in a bikini. I met him on the beach at Seaside Park. I was recovering from my ankle surgeries. And he told me, and he sounded a little stupid. You know, he wasn't a stupid guy. He just had this thing about him, like he was a little off. I don't know how to put it. He was a palooka. I'll refer to myself as a palooka a little bit once in a while. I got the Palooka Watch channel thing because I know I come off that way a little bit. But this guy really was more of a palooka, but we were very similar in that people trusted him, and he would go into these brownstones that are, these buildings are worth a lot of money, and he would strip everything out of these brownstones to the brick, and he'd clear the brick, he'd seal it, and remodel these apartments and make them cool, kitschy cool. His craftsmanship wasn't that great, but it looked good. People were happy with it. And I met him on the beach, and I told him what I did, and he didn't know me, and I didn't know him. But he could use the help, so he figured he'd take a chance with me. So I went up there. I spent a week with him working on this brownstone, and it was just gutting it and carrying all the trash down. Funny story about that was, first day we get there, we got to walk down to the water and deal with these guys, the mobsters, to get a dumpster, to put the dumpster on the street. And we went in, it was a corner office in this old building, and this place hadn't been touched since like the 30s. I mean, it still had the old wood desks in there, and it wasn't decorated or anything. It was pretty sparse. Two big, giant, overweight Italian guys in suits, like ramshackle suits. It wasn't like they were wearing expensive suits. It's just funny. It was like a film. And I just watched him go through all this rigmarole to get a friggin' dumpster. And then the crazy thing is we get the dumpster and we put it, they bring it right to the front of the building. And this guy I was working with, he got it into the habit of throughout the day, several times a day, he'd go down to the dumpster and go through it to make sure nobody else was putting their trash in the dumpster. And if somebody, and I watched him do this, if there was a bag in there that we didn't put there, he'd open up, he'd get an address. He took this bag of garbage, walked it 3 doors down, kicked the door open, ripped the bag open, dumped the whole thing in the lobby, kicked it in there, all the trash, screaming, "This dumpster's not for you!" And then there was a restaurant in New York. They got these restaurants that are like in the basement. You're walking on the street and you got to step down to go into these kind of like underground restaurants. And there was I think it was an Italian joint. This was the Village, by the way. And there's this joint called Joe Jr.'s. I think that was on 6th Street in the Village, and we were eating there every day. As a matter of fact, there were guys wearing Joe Jr.'s caps, these red caps, and I thought they were kind of cool. And I said to the guy, "I'd like to get one of those." He says, "You can't get one of those. They don't sell them. They only give them to the regulars." But the owner came by, and those two guys were friendly. And I asked the owner, I said, "Hey, how can I get one of those hats?" And he walked away, he came back, and he gave me one. And the guy I was hanging out with doesn't even have one. He was shocked. But it's because I made the guy laugh. The guy liked me. I'm just saying, my life is interesting. So the restaurant across the street would let us have dinner there for free every night because we allowed them to put their trash in the dumpster. It's just a fun, interesting thing. Here's the thing about working in Manhattan, though. You can't do it by yourself. You have to have somebody watch your vehicle. You have to have padlocks on your vehicle. You can't like unload your vehicle and leave the door open. If you leave the door open, you take your tools in. I mean, if you're gone for 40 seconds, you turn around, there's somebody running away with your tools. So there's no, and parking is a thing and all of it. You couldn't, so much of what people have to pay for to get work done in Manhattan is beyond the trade itself. It's what the tradesman has to deal with to do the work in the city in the first place. He's got to charge you for that because it's a major pain in the ass. It's pretty crazy. At any rate, I thought you guys would enjoy that. It's funny, not funny at all really, but Val Kilmer recently died, and Fenton said to me, when we were talking last night, we were telling stories, and like I said, this guy can tell you, when he was a bartender, Primola, all the big time people, actors, famous people, rich people, whatever that would come in, he's got tons of personal stories with those people. Plus all the films and television shows he's worked on, tons of stories with all kinds of people that a lot of you like. And he has this great story right over here at, right across the street from where I live, up there on Melrose and Plymouth, is a restaurant called Lucy's El Adobe. It closed during COVID, but they're going to open it again. They're remodeling it right now. This woman, Patricia, she owns it. Excuse me. I was talking to Patricia a couple months ago when I saw him out there. Yeah, I ran into a lot of these, rich and famous people at Lucy's myself. But Fenton was in there in the 90s, and Val Kilmer apparently, the way Fenton tells it, and he's going to tell the story, so I don't want to tell too much, but he was with some people. He wasn't enjoying himself. He got up and he was drunk. Saw Fenton. He was eating there by himself, so he sat down and started talking to him, and they spent the rest of the night drinking. So I told Fenton last night, I said, dude, do the Val Kilmer story and post it on your YouTube channel. So the big reason for me doing this talk up with you right now is Fenton does music. He's a pretty good musician. He comes up with some good tunes, and he sings a little bit. And he comes up with some catchiness. He's got one, Everybody I Hate is Just Like Hitler. I was listening to it last night. The song doesn't go anywhere. That was the only bummer. Like, there's a lot of rhyming in it, but there's not like a story to it in my mind. But I couldn't get it out of my head. But I told him, I was like, dude, you got the YouTube channel. Why don't you do like what I'm doing? You know, just looking at a camera and tell a story. So let's see if he does it. I hope he does it today. And if he does it, or when he does it, I'll come back to this video. And I'll put a link to that in the description. And I'm hoping that you guys will go check out his channel and maybe help motivate him a little bit to tell some of these stories. Like I said, he's an old guy now. And people like that have lived in Manhattan for 50 years or more and have seen all these changes in the city and have hobnobbed with all these people and been around some wild stuff. And he knows my background a little bit too with the mob stuff that I was dealing with in Jersey and all that. So I think Fenton could be a thing. I think Fenton could have a channel just telling these great stories of his life, and I think people would be interested in hearing them. So come back to this video at another time, maybe in a few days, because Fenton said he'll do it today. So hopefully we can egg Fenton on to do the story about him and Val Kilmer, because Val just passed, so it's a good time to tell the story because people are kind of looking him up right now. I'm just saying, you got to think that way. And that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little midweek story time, I suppose. And hopefully Fenton will do a good job on the story. It's funny, we talked about that last night, about what I'm doing, and he was very complimentary of my videos. I didn't realize he was actually watching my channel that much. I know he was aware of it. But I shared something 3 or 4 years ago. I did some video right here. And he made a real positive comment. He's like, dude, you got it. Like, you should keep doing this. And when it comes from somebody like him, who's been in that world, I got to respect that. But you guys know, you've been here long enough. You know I don't care that much about me, what I look like, or what I sound like, or any of that. You know, I'm not scripted. I'm off the cuff. I'm doing this one time. I didn't do this before and do it again. This is it. I'm going to do this one time. I'm going to put it up on YouTube. That's it. It doesn't get more real than that. And that's kind of my thing. I'm leaning into who I am as a human being, and I'm not going to make any apologies for who I am. And that's it. And I also want to say this, because, you know, I do the Sunday night chat video for you guys, and it's fun for me. But I keep telling you, A, there's nothing special about me. I'm not a celebrity, or any, not that I think those people are any better than anybody else either. But, you know, I'm just some average person talking to my phone, living alone, working in a friggin' garage, struggling, you know, month to month, barely getting by. That's my life. So don't think of me as something. The other thing is I'm sharing my opinion of what I'm thinking about something at that moment in time. My opinion on what I've shared with you can change based on new information and time and as my perspectives change. And when I'm talking about things, I may not say things exactly correct. I misspeak. Every video I misspeak. So what I'm putting out there is here's my opinion. I'm probably not getting this 100% accurate, but you get the gist of it. So it's always weird to me with comments sometimes from people where they're trying to correct what I've said when I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't. Thanks for correcting me. It doesn't matter. I've already forgotten what I said in that video. I got too many things going on in my brain. I get it out to you guys. It's out of my mind. Boom. You guys are like a therapist for me. Honestly, that's all this is. I'm just getting stuff off my chest, getting it out of my head, so I can clear my brain to work on the next thing. If I didn't have you guys, I'd be walking around with a shopping cart mumbling to myself. That's where I would be. So thank God I got a phone that'll record a video that I can put on YouTube. Otherwise, I'd be some kooky Kooky? I'd be a kooky. I'd be a kooky bum walking around making everybody else crazy. They probably would have locked me up by now. I'm going to leave it there. There's a couple other things bouncing around in my head, but I'll leave it for the next video. You guys have a great day, and be good. Be good humans. And I hope you enjoyed this. I'll catch you in the next one. Alright, so I got the 2 end parts in. They came out pretty good. I just zapped a couple screws in the edge here. Not my best work, but you have to keep in mind, I look at everything I've done in this van as temporary. I don't see any of it as permanent because I'll be doing a lot of changes. So tomorrow, I'm supposed to go down to a place to get these fiberglass bump outs that are one's gonna replace this piece of glass, the other one's gonna replace that piece of glass. And that's the reason I wanted to get these boards in. Again, this board here and that board on the other side. And so this is book matched aromatic cedar, and these are strips of mahogany, Honduran mahogany, and they just screw in there and they hold these panels. These panels are just floating, so it looks pretty cool. Thought I had you on the wide angle, but I didn't. So yeah, pretty neat. It's a good look. It's a good look. So just figured I might as well show that to you at the end of the video here. What do you think? It's not bad for an Astro van, huh? Wait till the bump outs get in, you see what I do with that. It's going to be pretty trick.